Hi, this is Brian Veda, owner of CrossFit Incendia. Chris likes to get you dialed in on your finances, and I like to get him dialed in on fitness. But first, check this out.
When you're talking about millionaire, people in their minds, they think, well, these are people that had to make a high six-figure income. I mean, that's one of the myths that I bust down, that people think wealthy people have high-paying jobs. Well, get this. 1/3 of millionaires never had a six-figure household income in a single working year. That means the average millionaire is a regular man or woman working a regular job.
Alrighty, everyone, this is the Money Peach Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Peach, and I'm going to be bringing on some of the most amazing people I can find so they can tell you how they do their life and their money the right way. I am super excited for today's show. You see, one of the things that I used to always dream about was what would it be like to someday be a millionaire? Now, not make $1 million, but just have a net worth of $1 million. What caused this was reading this book called The Millionaire Next Door, one of my all-time favorite books. Now, The Millionaire Next Door interviews 750 different millionaires and takes their stats or takes their information and puts them all in a book so you can see that the millionaire is really next door. It's the millionaire next door. So Dave Ramsey and Chris Hogan, they're part of the Dave Ramsey team, they decided, you know what, we're going to take this a step further. It's time to update those stats, and we're not going to interview 750 people. We're going to interview 10,000 different people with a net worth of $1 million or more, and we're going to share and we're going to talk about it. So Chris Hogan is coming on the show, and he's going to talk about what millionaires do for a living. You know, what are the top 3 jobs they found out of these 10,000 people they interviewed? You know, how much money do they make per year? How big of a house do they live in? What are their spending habits like? You know, all the ins and outs that we want to know about being a millionaire, we're going to learn from Chris here in this interview. So without further ado, let me bring on Dave Ramsey personality, Chris Hogan. Chris Hogan, welcome back to the Money Peach Podcast. I was just taking a look. It's been about 15 months since we had you on the last time, and we were talking last time mainly about retirement. This time we're taking it about a step further. We're going to be talking about millionaire status and the everyday millionaires and kind of breaking down the barriers and the myths to what it takes to become a millionaire. But before we get started, I just want you to say hello to our audience and introduce yourself and tell us where you're calling in from.
Fantastic. Well, Chris, it is a pleasure to be back with you and the Money Peach Podcast. I enjoyed talking to you about 15 months ago. I am calling in live from Ramsey Solutions headquarters here in Brentwood, Tennessee.
Very cool. So you work alongside Dave Ramsey. I think everybody out there that knows anything about money knows about Dave Ramsey, and you work right alongside of him. From what I understand is you've kind of taken the role of being the wealth building influencer inside the Ramsey Solutions organization. Is that a good description?
Yes, sir. That is very accurate. I've been a part of this team for 13 years, and I've had an opportunity to grow and learn in many areas, but primarily here in the last several years of getting around speaking and talking to people about money, business, and leadership has truly been a passion. And yes, in the area of retirement and the area of wealth building, those are kind of the 2 spots that I'm really digging into because I want people to know the truth, Chris. I want people to know what's available to them and what they can do with the right mindset and the right kind of planning.
You've obviously been in this field a long time. I think on the last episode we talked, but share a little bit about your background. I think it's so interesting how you got started learning about wealth building and helping, you know, some of the other people, some very highly successful people manage their money.
Yeah, well, I started in the consumer finance industry. That was a place where we would do 24% personal loans. We'd give out the money at the beginning of the month, but guess what I got to do at the end? I'd have to go collect. And knocking on doors and talking to people, I really got a chance to see the impact of money firsthand. It's real easy to talk about, but if people don't know the habits, then they can't really put it into place. So I moved from there into mainstream banking and, incomes levels had increased, but I was still seeing the same issues and the same problems. People didn't know how money worked. They didn't know how to take control. And so moving up the ranks and starting to work with private clients, pro athletes, entertainers, musicians, things of that nature, what I really started to do was try to educate people a little. But until I connected with Dave and his message and really understood the truth about how money works, then I was really able to help people take leaps and bounds financially because I was able to do it for myself.
Gotcha. Okay. So then kind of transitioning here, we have a book that's coming out January 7th, 2019. We can pre-order it now. The book's called Everyday Millionaires. Now, I was fortunate enough to get a copy of this book. I went through it and I have to say, this book, I absolutely loved it. My favorite book of all time, Chris, is The Millionaire Next Door.
Yeah.
And I feel like this was just like the icing on top of that cake. So well done on this book, but there's a bunch of questions that I wanted to ask you and topics that I read in this book that I thought were extremely interesting, to say the least. So starting off with your book, Everyday Millionaires, what I want to know is how are millionaires making their money? So on this podcast, we bring on a lot of different people from all different walks of life who, they have different careers, different jobs, anywhere from a firefighter to a nurse to maybe an entrepreneur. So there's all these different people who are making, different amounts of money doing different things, but you guys did some research. So I'm going to back up a little bit. You did some research. How many people did you interview or did you survey for this?
Yes. Well, we wanted to do the largest survey of net worth millionaires that's ever been done. We kicked around some numbers and some ideas. Millionaire Next Door, they looked at around 750, but we wanted to go big. And so we studied over and interviewed over 10,000 millionaires all across the United States. It was a major undertaking, a major research project. But I'm telling you, it was eye-opening and incredible and astounding, the information we found.
So the 10,000 people or 10,000 families that you surveyed, now, do these people make $1 million or what? When you're saying they're millionaires, what is your criteria for that?
Oh, I thank you so much for that. So for the purpose of this study, we targeted people with a net worth of more than $1 million. That means the total of all their assets, bank accounts, investments, minus any kind of debt, totaled $1 million or more. So it doesn't mean they make $1 million a year. It means they have a net worth of $1 million, counting their equity, their investments, all the way around.
So I think that's one of the biggest myths that I once believed, that a millionaire meant that they had to make $1 million. And for, 99.9% of people, they're not going to make $1 million a year in their income. So for people that are listening, the reason why we're doing this show is we're going to talk about some of the other things here, but millionaire status does not mean you can't be a millionaire, right? Millionaire status, like he said, it means net worth of $1 million, which takes me into some of the most interesting things I found in this book is what millionaires do for a living. Out of your 10,000 families or 10,000 people, what were some of the top 3 to 5 career choices people were making to retire with $1 million?
Yeah, it was astounding. I'm going to tell you. Seeing this, and I agree with you, Chris, I too had that myth in my head that a millionaire meant that they had to make $1 million. But no, this is about accumulating wealth, about building it over time. And so looking at it, there were all kinds of careers. But of the top 3, you had accountants, you had engineers. But the third one shocked me. The third was teachers, college and high school teachers. And again, this is a career that everyone knows is probably one of the most undervalued, right? And a lot of times people would say, man, they're not paid enough for what all they do. But teachers. And how is this? Because becoming a millionaire is not about your income. It's not how much money you have coming in. It's how much money you're keeping to be able to grow for yourself when you don't have debt taking money from you month in and month out.
Okay, so with that said, you do have to have an income, right, to save. That's the number one thing. You can't be saving or investing. But what are you seeing as far as these people who are retiring? What are they saving as maybe a percentage of their income?
Well, on average, a lot of them are investing 15 to 16%. Some of them were doing more than that, but on average, that was the minimum, which is exactly what we teach. We tell people to invest 15% of your income once you get out of debt and you build up a fully funded emergency fund of 3 to 6 months of expenses. So these are people that got debt out of their lives and then really focused and invested over time consistently. And that word consistently is the key. I tell people all the time, your money has 2 best friends, time and compound interest. When the money is sitting there with compound interest and it has time to grow, the money is growing, the interest is growing, and it's all a positive.
So you just said a number there, 15 to 16%. I was looking up in the book and I think it was, and correct me if I'm wrong, but right around, I think the average income that you guys saw was right around $50,000. Does that sound familiar?
That is correct. Which shocks people to hear because, again, when you're talking about millionaire, people in their minds, they think, well, these are people that had to make a high 6-figure income, right? I mean, that's one of the myths that I bust down, that people think wealthy people have high-paying jobs. Well, get this. 1/3 of millionaires never had a 6-figure household income in a single working year. Let me repeat that. 1/3 of millionaires never had a six-figure household income in a single working year. That means the average millionaire is a regular man or woman working a regular job. And so it's possible for people. Yes, you do have to have an income in order to build wealth. I would say you have to have an income in order to live. But when you're able to put more of your income to work for you instead of going to others in the form of credit card debt or student loans, now you have an opportunity to truly begin to build wealth.
Chris, when you're talking, I was doing a little bit of math there. So $50,000 a year. And if we're saying 15%, of our gross income, that's $7,500 a year. If you divide that out monthly, that's $625 a month.
Mm-hmm.
And when you take it in a small bite like that, it seems much more manageable to realize that these millionaires that you're interviewing, a large majority of them, this would be a realistic number, $625 a month. Does that sound right?
It is, Chris. It is realistic. That's the message I'm trying to get across to people, that it's real, not only realistic, it's achievable. And here's the other crazy thing. My publicist, she had done some research on debt in the state of America right now for here at Ramsey Solutions and found the average car payment, the average new car payment is right around $580. So if we're saying investing $600 to $650 a month will put you on the path to become a millionaire, what does that tell us? It tells us we've got to get rid of new car payments approaching almost $600 and then used car payments around $450. So we're driving our wealth. We have an opportunity to put that to work for us. We just have to start to think and pay these cars off and don't fall for that car payment trap anymore.
Yeah, I think the car payment is one of the biggest separators of wealth in my mind is because people don't realize it's not just the car payment. The one thing you don't see that you're paying for is the depreciation. And I think I'm reading here in your book, the average millionaire drives a 4-year older car. Why is that?
Well, it's because they learned how to do math. They know they're not trying to impress people they don't know. All they're trying to do is have reliable transportation to get from point A to point B. And so it's nothing wrong with having a nicer car. But when you learn how to count and you know how money works, what you don't want to do is to give your money to the car company each and every month, which allows them to build wealth. And so it's just this wake-up call. It's an epiphany, as I call it. When you look at it and you get it and you go, you know what? Yeah, I'm not falling for that trap anymore. Same can be said about credit cards. When we learn how to do math on this and you see it for what it is, now we can make wiser decisions for ourselves and our families.
So I talk about this a lot of the podcast, Chris. I drive an Escalade. It's a 2004 Escalade. It's older than both of my kids combined for the same exact reason. Mm-hmm. And then my wife drives an old Kia for the same reason is we would rather, max out our retirement accounts, put as much as we can in retirement accounts. And the cars, yeah, we're not going to get looked at, when we go to the valet, but we don't park valet because we got 2 legs that can walk. So that's that's our mindset.
Well, listen, you and I are on the same page, my friend. I drive a 2004 Audi myself. And again, mileage on it, you keep it running. All I want to do is get from point A to point B. But I love being able to see the 401k statement grow. I love being able to look at other investments continue to grow month in and month out, because I know eventually this car is going to give it up, right? It can break down and you need money to replace it or just to fix it. And so when you think differently about it, now you're not falling for the same old traps. And those commercials that come on that try to make you feel bad about the car you have, it's okay. You just remind yourself of what you're building and what you're wanting to do later in life.
Chris, out of these 10,000 families or 10,000 individuals that you guys did research on, what are their spending habits like? Because I'm starting to see out there that the average monthly spending for going out to eat is over $400 a month. You just said the average car payment was $580 a month. What are the spending habits like of people who have a net worth of $1 million or more?
Well, they're very intentional in their spending, meaning going out to eat, they do it sometimes, but it's not a lot. The big thing that they do is budget. These are people that know they want to tell money where to go instead of wondering where it went, to quote John Maxwell. I love that line. These are people that make the money work for them. They know they're working hard for it, so they want to be very intentional. They want to know where the money is going, know what it takes for them to live on. So when they make decisions to enjoy things or do things, they know that it's not going to be attached with regret. So they're planners. Budgeting is absolutely key. So anybody out there listening in your audience, if you're not budgeting yet, I really want you to begin to learn and embrace that skill because it'll set you up for success.
Hey guys, I just wanted to pause and take a second to say thank you from me to you for listening to and supporting the Money Peach podcast. Without listeners like you, this show definitely would not be possible, so thank you. You know, the number one question that I receive is this: Peach, I just don't know where to start when it comes to my money. You know, so many of us out there are living paycheck to paycheck. We have tons of debt. We're not making any headway. We can't save any money. We want to go on a freaking vacation where we pay cash for it. Oh, and let's talk about retirement savings and kids' college planning on top of that, right? Where do you start? Well, that's why we created the cash flow formula. The cash flow formula is the same system that Andrea and I used to pay off $52,000 in debt in only 7 months. And the best part is it's 100% free, meaning we are going to send you the free tools and a free lesson on how to set up your own cash flow formula. So to get started, go over to getcashflowformula.com. That's GET cashflowformula.com. Once again, head on over to getcashflowformula.com to get your free copy and your free lesson on how to get started the right way. All right, guys, now back to the show. You know, I always like to use the analogy, Chris, that, you know, none of us would ever sign up for a road trip across the country without a fuel gauge. Yeah. And right, that doesn't make sense. Then why do we go through life week in, week out, month in, month out, and just kind of guess? You know, if we guess, we're never going to get there. So,
you know, you're right. And a lot of people don't know how to begin. I don't care what tool you use to budget, just learn the skill, and it's going to take you 2 or 3 months to get the hang of it. But I'm telling you, you'll look back and you'll start to see where you were wasting money. And Chris, I was notorious. You know the category I wasted the most money on?
What's that?
Food. It was either eating out or grocery shopping, because I realized I would go every Saturday. I was shopping out of habit, not out of need. And see, having that awareness allowed me to put some controls in place, meaning I could go to the grocery store, but I didn't need to spend $300 or $400 every visit. That little tweak saved me a lot of money over the years.
Yeah, I mean, every little dollar adds up. I mean, if you think about this, if you save $20 or $40 every time you go to the grocery store and you're going every single week, you know, over a year right there, I mean, that's almost one whole month of maxing or putting in the $625 a month for your 401k or wherever you're putting it. But speaking of 401k, I get this question all the time, Chris. You know, I started making more money. I want to invest 15 to 20%, whatever it might be of my income. Where should I be putting it? I got a guy at work telling me I should be putting it in Bitcoin. I have somebody else over here telling me, no, you should be putting in real estate. I have somebody else saying, max out your 401k and take the employer matchers. The thing is it's very diverse on where you can invest. So I guess my question is not asking where should you invest, but where are the millionaires that you researched? Where are they putting their money?
Yeah, these millionaires are investing, like I said, the 15% into their 401ks. The regular 401k, like you might have available to you at your job, or 403b, this is the tool that they use to get to millionaire status. Again, consistently over time. Now, they were investing in growth stock mutual funds. Some of them are heavily invested in real estate, but they've done that with cash. That means they saved up to pay cash for the real estate, and then they're renting it out and they have it there. These millionaires are allergic to debt. And so they're not doing anything that costs them money. They're staying focused on doing the things to help them make money.
Speaking of, doing things consistently, that's one thing that I completely believe in is there's really no such thing as a get rich quick scheme, right? It takes consistency, effort over time, right? That is the recipe. So with that said, when you're interviewing these people, what were around the age mark where they hit that millionaire status? Because I think this is kind of like a benchmark for me personally. So I'm 35 years old, and I'm always thinking, we're on our way to become millionaires. As far as your definition of net worth millionaires. But I want to know where we're at compared to what is the average age, or not right. Average age, but how many years are they, or average age of them when they hit the millionaire status?
Yeah, that on average, was hovering around the 50, I want to say 53 or 54 age mark. But here's the deal. It all equates to when you get started. It's all a matter of, for the people that get started in their 20s putting money into the 401k, they've got a great opportunity to be able to allow that money to grow for 25 or 30 years, which can help them get there. And so less than the average time that it was taking people was around that 20 to 25 year mark. And again, it depends on how intentional you are and where you are. And I like that because, I said in my book, Retire Inspired, my first book, that retirement's not an age, it's a financial number. Well, looking at this, obviously reaching millionaire status, that is a number, but you get a chance to start right where you are. I've got a gentleman that I talked to a couple years ago, and he was late getting started. He was in his mid-30s. And so we walked out his plan and were showing him what he needed to do to become a millionaire by age 60. Well, for him, he wanted to get there by age 55. And so it was just interesting to get him connected to an investment professional to start to walk through the numbers because he had the goal of becoming a millionaire clear in his head. He just wanted to know what he needed to do to get there. And so he kind of made life work around him and his goals. He didn't allow lifestyle to eat up his income.
You know, I was reading your book, Chris, Everyday Millionaires, that the thing that was really surprising is I think a lot of people are under the myth that if you are able to save up a lot of money and you're a millionaire, that you must be very smart about investing, about where to put your money as far as, the investment choices. But one of the things that stuck out to me is most of the millionaires that you interviewed, they utilize a financial advisor, a financial planner.
Yes, they do.
Can you kind of lean on that a little bit more? Because I think a lot of times you hear this, a younger generation, I would say closer to my generation, saying, oh, we're just going to do it ourselves because there's all these tools out there to do it. And I'm not pro or against either one, but it was interesting that when I was reading that the majority of the people you interviewed do use a financial advisor.
Oh, yes, they do. I mean, it was around close to 90%. And what that shows is that you want a professional. You want to deal with someone that has knowledge. If I go to a dentist, I want to go to a dentist that knows teeth. If I go to see a heart doctor, I need somebody that knows hearts really well. Well, the same can be said with your money. And while there are a lot of people out there that are self-guiding their own investments, they're still connecting with an investment professional just to get a second opinion or to get some guidance. And again, that's what people that are intentional, people that want to get to their goals, they don't have a problem asking someone for help or getting a second opinion. And that to me, I mean, it was eye-opening, but I wasn't that shocked because if you want to win, what you want to do is get the right kind of coach in your corner to help you get there.
Okay, so speaking of coaches, one thing that I remember reading in the book was coaches and mentors. The majority of the people that were surveyed, they had a coach and a mentor. And I like the way that you separated them and you described how each of them work hand in hand. So can you kind of share with us what it means to have a coach in your corner, but also have a mentor to look up to?
Sure, absolutely. Well, a coach, I mean, I'm a former athlete, Chris. So I played football, I wrestled, played baseball. And, for me, a coach is somebody that's giving you instruction, right? They're looking at you, looking at your technique, and they're saying, hey, this is something you can improve or keep doing this, but then let's add this. They're kind of clued into where you are. And that's somebody that can help you get better. But a mentor is a little bit different. A mentor is somebody that's had success or has reached that spot, and they're able to kind of share with you about their journey. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be in the same line of work with them, but I think a mentor is somebody that has experienced success and walked through it and is able to give someone else some guidance or some awareness of some pitfalls to avoid and just give you some personal motivation to strive for better than where you are.
Chris, I every month sit down with a mentor and we talk business. He's also an entrepreneur and he's, I would say 10 to 15 years ahead of me as far as age wise and as far as where he's at in life. But one of the things that we kind of go back and forth on is he's a big fan of me paying off my mortgage. And so I'll tell him, well, it makes sense to pay it off, but also, the interest rate we got in, we're under 4%. It's so low. So I guess my question is, from your research, what would you say millionaires are doing as far as paying off their mortgage or investing, or are they doing a mixture of both? Because I think people who, they do have a little bit of this extra money, they're caught in this teeter-totter of, do we throw more at the mortgage or do we throw more in our 401k? I mean, what were some of the research you guys found?
Well, the research showed the millionaires that we talked to, and again, we talked to over 10,000 of them, they're investing the 15% consistently. But anything over and beyond that, they are attacking the mortgage. They are paying that thing off. And you mentioned something that I hear a lot of people say, well, Chris, I got a great low interest rate. And I say, okay, well, let me give you a PhD in economics real quick. Interest that you pay as a penalty, interest that you earn as a reward. So if you've got a small interest rate on your mortgage, then you're paying a small penalty, but you're still paying a penalty. You're paying somebody for using their money. So I would encourage people to throw everything but the kitchen sink. That's what I talk about in the book. At the mortgage, keep doing the 15% investing. If you have young kids saving for college, keep following through with that. But anything extra over and above out of the budget, throw it at the mortgage, because what you're going to do is start to chop that mortgage down and eventually pay off the home, which then that equity, that home being paid off, that is all asset now that you would use to reach your millionaire milestone.
So I remember reading in your book here, it says 11 years is what the average millionaire takes to pay off their mortgage, from the time they get a mortgage to the time they pay it off. But I also saw that Fannie Mae says 90% of mortgages out there are 30-year mortgages, which really kind of was surprising to me, that the majority of people with 30-year mortgages, but millionaires are paying them off in 11 years or less.
Yeah, they're attacking them. I mean, these are people that are very intentional. They understand they want to own their home. They don't want anybody to ever come take their home away from them. And what do they want? Their money that they have coming in. Once you have your home paid off, then you can ramp up your investments. You can start to save to pay cash for real estate. You can start to be more in control for yourself. And so it's possible. Now, for the people out there that are listening, if they have a 30-year mortgage, here's what I'm going to encourage them to do. Refinance that 30 down to a 15. On average, it's going to increase your payment $500, $600, maybe a little bit more. But think about this. If you're early in a mortgage and it's a 30-year mortgage and you refinance to a 15-year, that $500 to $600 extra is going to cut off 15 years of mortgage payments. Again, it's that seeing it on paper, wrapping your head around it, and then you get it and you go, okay, yeah, this makes sense. So even though they refinanced and they were in a 15-year fix, what happened is these millionaires started to get excited about the idea of actually owning their home. And so what they did was attacked it, paid it off, and now they've just freed up that mortgage payment to start to invest or enjoy in their everyday lifestyle.
You know, Chris, one of the things I saw at the end of the book was talking about some of the habits of these millionaires. And one of them that really stuck out to me was they're very goal oriented. People are listening to this show and they're thinking, oh, okay, these teachers are out there. Somehow, some way they came along the way they generated enough savings to set aside and create a $1 million nest egg or more. But one thing that really popped out was the goal orientation, that they're so focused on goals. What was one of the things that maybe popped out to you when you were doing the research about being intentional with goals?
You know, I like it because I come from that goal setting kind of mindset where you got to aim your effort, right? You got to know. And I like to keep score. I like to know, am I winning? Am I losing? Or am I behind, right? I want to know that. I totally can understand that it's not an accident that these millionaires hit millionaire status, because it was their goal. They made their lifestyle just in sync with staying focused, not going backward, not having 15 minutes or 30 minutes of stupid on a car lot to get a car loan anymore. They knew what they were chasing. And so they do keep score. They're doing it in their budgeting. They're setting numbers. They're also doing it as they're meeting with their investment professionals to find out, where are they this year? Are they on track to not only reach millionaire status, but beyond that? Because 89% of the millionaires that we studied had a net worth between $1 and $5 million. So again, it wasn't an accident. This was very intentional.
I love it, Chris. The book is Everyday Millionaires. It is going to be released January 7th, 2019. Pre-ordering is already started. So we're going to put links in the show notes where you guys can go grab that book. I highly suggest grabbing a copy of it. You can find it pretty much everywhere. So we'll put links to it, but it's an amazing book. It's one of those books that you're going to scratch your head and go, no, this is not what I was told. This is not true. And then you're going to see the numbers, you're going to see the facts, and it's going to really open your mind to believe that, yes, there are such things as everyday millionaires, and you are going to be the next everyday millionaire by just doing some of these things that Chris talks about in his book. So Chris, just want to say thank you so much for coming on the show. You're always an amazing guest. I love the fact that you guys didn't interview 700 people. You interviewed 10,000 people, and the numbers speak for themselves. So thanks a lot for coming on the show.
Chris, thank you so much for having me. I just want your listeners to hear me and understand the American dream is still alive and well, and it's also available to them. They just need to grab it, start to know the steps to take, and then start to live it.
Love it. Thanks so much, my friend.
Thank you, my friend.
And just like that, we wrap up another amazing episode of the Money Peach podcast. All the show notes, the links, anything that Chris and I talked about, including his book, Everyday Millionaires, can be found over at moneypeach.com/session122. That's moneypeach.com/session122. Thank you guys so much for listening to and supporting the show. And please share this show with your friends. Let's get this out to as many people as possible. I would love for them to know about Everyday Millionaires, how to become an everyday millionaire. So if you're in your podcast app or whatever you are, hit the share button, share this link with them, let people know about the show. We'll see you guys next week, same time, same place, with another amazing episode of the Money Peach podcast. God bless you guys and take care. Boom,